Hi, and welcome to tonight's show. I'm your host, Britton NewOne Carter, and this is On the Line. Tonight we have a very special guest with us. But before we get to that, let me just remind my guests that you can reach us on ontheline.com and also follow us on Twitter. Watch On the Line. Tonight we have Lee Zellars with us. This guy, I dubbed him as the Michael Jordan of the film industry. We were just chopping it up a little bit before the show began, and Lee has done some phenomenal work. So I had Lee on the show, and I wanted to have him one-on-one, so to speak, Michael Jordan one-on-one, and Lee, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on the show. The Michael Jordan comparison, I'll take it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take it. Okay. But
Great.
But thanks
Great.
for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Listen, let's kind of jump right into this. Why don't you tell, I know a little something about you, but why don't you tell our viewers exactly who Lee Zellars is?
Who Lee Zellars is? Well, pretty much my whole thing has been centered around art. I started out as a freelance photographer, did a lot of work in Cincinnati, shot for like the Herald magazine, Applause magazine back then, and it was Nip magazine. Then I started working with Judge Gaines and Ken Lawson, did a lot of work with them. Then it got to a point where I was always dabbling with film. When I was doing photography, I was dabbling with film.
Right.
So kind of transitioned from doing the photography, started getting into film, started playing around with some movies, and got me to where I am today, sitting here talking with you.
Okay, that's great. I've got to let you in on a secret. I've been dying to have the opportunity of working with you in some capacity. So I'm really appreciative of you giving me this time
honored.
here. Lee, let's just jump back just a little bit and let's talk about the early days of Lee Zellars. I understand you grew up in Avondale.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about your early childhood experience?
Early childhood experience, hopefully it don't take me back into a dark area. But early childhood experience for me, because really when I was like, coming up in elementary school, I've talked about this and I've even spoke at, in front of some kids about the whole thing about being bullied, because I was bullied a lot when I was a kid.
Okay.
And it's one of those kind of experiences when you go through that process, you never forget it, and it can kind of like change your life, and or either add to you or it's going to take away from you. So it happened to add to me because it made me want to do different things, get out there and just get beyond feeling like I was a victim,
Okay.
So I grew up in Avondale, and in Avondale you had to be kind of like, you had to be tough anyway. So after I got to that teenage age, the whole bullying thing was behind me. I got some size on me. You ain't jumping on me now.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? So it was a whole different thing. And coming up in Avondale back then, like, in the late 70s, 80s, and just seeing, things that have changed, when you look at it today and how it was back then. And it was special back then, because you saw all these different businesses on Burnett Avenue. So that whole experience was really good. So I really enjoyed those times back then.
So where did you exactly grow up at in Avondale?
I lived on Alaska, and
which was right around the corner there from Burnett.
Yeah.
So you had
so I went to Rockdale and went to Rockdale Elementary School. From Rockdale, went to Samuel Ock, which we still got the Lincoln statue out there, but the school is gone.
Yeah.
And
but the spirit is still there.
The spirit is still there, and it's probably some of the spirit of some of the thugs, because we had some hardcore cats there,
Right.
But it was all good. It was like it shaped your life, You was either going to go one way or the other. You was either going to try to get your education on, or you going to get caught up in all of the other stuff that was going on, because there was a lot going on then.
Yeah, you're right. When I was a youngster, when we talked about Avondale, one of the main streets that stood out, particularly in Cincinnati, when you talk about streets, you talk about Reading Road.
Right.
Now that experience and growing up in Avondale and the Reading Road scene, how crowded and busy it was.
Right.
It was a thriving community.
It was. It was very thriving, and that's what, I mean, you probably could touch on that sometime down the road, but it was a project I did based on that whole experience.
Okay.
Because it was like seeing all of these different businesses, mom and pop shop, black-owned businesses. Parkers had the beauty supply stores and all that stuff. Then seeing all that stuff go away.
Right. Right.
And it just how you look at Avondale today, and it's just totally different. But
right.
back then, it was a thriving district. Redden Road and Burnett Avenue was like, it was jumping.
Yeah, I can remember the old Cousins LTD.
Right.
One of the first high fashion stores that we had in the city and the black community.
Right.
You know, and they kept it on the line.
Mm-hmm.
They kept things on the line there. You can go there and you can get your leather jackets, which was a big thing for us growing up in that time.
Right.
I can remember the psychedelic grade, which was across the street. So yeah, it was really thriving and bustling.
Oh, you know, when I think about Burnett Avenue, on Burnett Avenue we had actually 3 gas stations.
We did.
We had Bob, Star, I can't think of the other one. Then we had like 2 dry cleaning businesses.
That's right.
Then we had the Hickory Hut. It was a hardware store. It was a real thriving area as far as small businesses did really good. You know?
Yeah, and it was a family feel too.
Yeah, because a lot of it was
all the shop owners,
right.
all the gas station owners, everybody, all the businessmen knew everybody.
Right.
They knew all the kids.
Right.
You know, boy, get.
Right. It was that kind of thing. Right.
Yeah, right.
What we lacking today.
It was a village.
Right.
It was a village.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Now you went to school. Where did you attend high school at?
Hughes High.
Hughes High, Big Red,
Big
home
Red.
of the Big Reds.
I wasn't an athlete, so if you ask me did I play any sports, though I had the height,
Right.
but
right.
I couldn't dribble. The Michael Jordan comparison, that's what I was thinking about. I couldn't dribble myself out of off of a basketball court or onto a basketball court if I had to. I had no basketball skills.
You know, I watched you walk in, and you had that kind of
walk. I got that swagger, like I could slam dunk.
Go a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I got no crossover move, none of that.
So let me ask you this. Then growing up in Avondale and being a kid that wasn't really into sports, when did you get the acting bug or the movie making bug? When did you catch this bug for this industry?
Because again, when you know, at the age of like 10, 12, whatever, like I said, you know, it's like you got the bad guy on the street that, you know, you look out the window before you go outside and it's like, oh man, he's outside.
Right.
So I stay inside and I would just draw and color,
Right.
you know, so that was a way of like finding something else to do because I didn't want to go outside because I didn't want to get a bloody lip today, so I would stay inside and draw and paint and stuff like that. So that just kind of manifested it, you know, later on, and it was just like it just kind of sparked my creativity.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
So,
yeah, it kind of it filtered your imagination.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. Now, you mentioned writing and drawing. Do you have any works currently now, that you collected over the years?
Oh, some of my, I don't have any of my, I wish I did, you know, but I don't have any of my drawing and stuff like that. No. But I got a lot of my photographs and stuff like that I did of, you know, Judge Gaines, Ken Lawson, all those kind of people.
Right.
On negative film, you don't hardly see that anymore.
Okay, yeah. So explain the difference for us.
Well, you know, back then, you know, you get a roll of film, you shoot basically on, you know, photography was pretty much shot on film, and I had my own darkroom. You went in there, you did the whole process, you processed the film, then you made the prints and all that kind of stuff, and now everything is just digital, which is cool. But back then, you had to really be skilled. You know, you could either take your stuff and drop it off at a Photoshop, but a lot of us back then, like, we wanted to know the whole process, you know, so we got into the whole thing of the developing the film, knowing what to shoot at and all that kind of stuff, knowing about your lighting, and then knowing about how to print your pictures. So.
Right. So tell me, did you go to school for that? Or?
Totally was self-educated. I met a guy who was a photographer, and he was into some other things, but I was impressed with the work. You know, and one day he showed me a picture that he did in his bathroom, and it just sparked something. I was like, wow, you did that in your bathroom.
Right.
And I was like, how did you do that? And he showed me the whole process. And so Christmas was coming up. Girlfriend asked me, what would you like for Christmas? I was like, give me a camera.
Right, okay,
and I got the camera and just
What age were you when that happened?
That was I was probably about 22, 21, 22.
Okay,
like that.
Okay. So you're out of school.
Right.
You're in your 20s, your early 20s. Did you try any other ventures before?
No, I just like, you know, I got into the photography thing, and then I had a couple friends that were like, you know, doing family portraits, going to different events, and I was pretty much setting up stuff doing like still shots.
Right.
But then I started seeing them making some money because I'm like, they out here doing portraits and all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, I like to make some of that money too. So I started doing like portrait work, family portraits and stuff like that. And then did some murals for Lincoln Heights Baptist Church.
Okay.
And after I did that, that just seemed like that just kind of like connect me from one dot to another dot. It was like, did the murals, then I started working with Applause Magazine, from Applause Magazine, Cincinnati Herald to Ken Lawson and Judge Gaines, and it just kind of.
Right. So in those early years, you know, I can imagine it was a lot of peer pressure. You know, you're 20 years old in your 20s, and you know, was there a lot of your influences, guys, peer pressure, telling you you can't do this, man. What are you doing? Do something else.
Well, the thing was, like, I had, you know, a set of friends that I came up with, and we kind of all started going in our different directions. I was getting into photography. Some of them was trying to, you know, pursue professional careers. Some of them was pursuing, instead of going to school for pharmaceuticals, they wanted to go to the streets for pharmaceuticals. You know, but they was my friends, you know, and I used to have people like say to me, like, why do you be around that guy? And he was like, well, he's a childhood friend.
Right.
Although I knew he was involved in some other things, I wasn't in it, so that's what he do. But you know, but the thing in that whole situation, he was always telling me, encouraging me, you know. You know, like, you know, you didn't have to go to school for this, man. You know, you're doing good work, keep doing this, and you know, so it was never like they was trying to pull me away from that.
Right. So that's great. You had early influences that really worked out positive for you. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in terms of the street? We talked earlier before the show started, and you kind of alluded to some things, kind of a dark time for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, right before I got into the photography, I was, you know, pretty much just hanging out in the street with my friends, doing little stuff, you know, nothing too serious, you know. But I, you know, like a lot of teenagers, I didn't really have no direction. Wasn't nobody trying to point me like, you know, go here, go to the boys club, or go do this or whatever. We was just out having fun, you know. And so, but and then like I said, the guy who got me started, who was doing photography himself, he was another guy that was kind of doing his own pharmaceutical thing. And so that experience I had with him, seeing what he was doing, that kind of got me where, like, I paid attention to what he was doing, how he was shooting pictures, because he was always, every time I go to his house, he was always showing me stuff, you know. I shot this, I did this here, I changed the lighting and all this kind of stuff. So that helped lure me away from going in that other direction, because, like I said, when I was like at the age 12, I was always drawing and stuff, so I always had that idea of creativity and want to create stuff. So it was easy for me to fall into that direction than to go off doing this other stuff, because the other stuff what everybody else was doing really didn't interest me that much. You know,
we're going to talk when we get later in the show here about the influences in our community today as opposed to the earlier influence when we were coming along. You know, as you just alluded to, there was somebody in the community that kind of took us up under our wings, so to speak. And do you find that that's missing?
Very
today?
much so. We, you know, in some ways, I guess there's a generation that sort of dropped the ball on a lot of stuff, you know, because, like I said, when I was coming up during that time, you know, I knew people that was doing other things that whatever, there wasn't things that they should have been doing or whatever, but at the same time, they wasn't trying to get me caught up into that stuff. They most of them was encouraging you to go do something else, you know. So they was kind of like the older guys in the neighborhood. They was looking out for you, you know. The whole you know, village type concept was totally different then. You know, it's like if you was doing something wrong, and your neighbor across the street, she saw you, she put some hands on you, and your parent wasn't gonna have no problem with it, you know. But today man, you can't do nothing like that, man.
That's right. I know for me, it was Miss B. You know, Miss B caught me stealing that bag of M&Ms, terrorized me. I'll never forget it. It still haunts me today, Miss B. Whooped my butt all the way home. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, you know, what you do, you know, the movie business. You know, I was doing my homework last night, and I'm looking at OTR, you know, I'm looking at Purple Haze, but going back to OTR, that was one of your earlier films, 2009, I believe. And it was a film that, if I'm not mistaken, it got national attention. You won an Indie Award at the festival in Cleveland, the first place. Talk a little bit about it.
Well, the film game, because, you know, like I said, I'm self-educated. I had did a couple films prior to OTR, which they was more like a learning experience. I was just trying to, like, basically the first film I did, I just wanted to see if I could shoot something, put it together, and would it make sense? You know, could you follow it?
Right.
And so I didn't have good equipment and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't let that stop me. And I think
So what was the first film that you shot?
It was this movie called Nattyville.
Nattyville, okay.
Yeah, Nattyville was like a cult hit on it. It was a cult hit out on the street.
Right.
And it was like back then, the whole idea of hustling movies out the trunk of your car.
Right.
I mean, we used to be out there. The people that I was involved with when we put the movie together. I mean, we was out there killing them just on the streets. I mean, we like go out there on the weekend, make a couple $100 on a Friday or Saturday, like real easy, just going around to all the mom and pop shops and the barber shops and places like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Purple Haze was another interesting movie. You know, I watched that and it was really, the concept was great.
Right.
You know, and just let me back up to OTR. You know, in conjunction with Purple Haze, I'm looking there and I see the Susan DePass of Cincinnati, Mazan. You got Mazan in there, you got Lady J in there.
Yeah,
I mean, and that was, you know, that really impressed me. You know, because Cincinnati is, and what I've come to find is that Cincinnati is really, you know, a tight-knit circle in this industry. It's kind of hard to break through, particularly among us African Americans, you know, when we talk about, you know, the film industry.
Right. Well, it's one of those kind of things where we just have to sometimes, you know, be open enough to work with people. Like a guy named Cole Black, he was one of the people who was the creator of OTR. So he came to me, saw some stuff that I was doing. He came to me and said, like, hey, he wanted to make this into like a online series.
Right.
But when I read the script, I saw it as a movie. So I was like, let's just make this a movie. And then I was like, let's make it in black and white. And he was like, what? Black and white? I was like, we're going to shoot this in black and white. We're going to have this kind of film noir type vibe to it. And I was like, it's going to work.
Right.
And the thing, man, it's like if you get out and push what it is you're doing, get out there and hustle, put in your work. We wasn't scared to call people up. We was calling up the Inquirer magazine, you know, Channel 5, Channel 9. Hey, we filmmakers, we doing some stuff in the city. Y'all need to come out and check out what we was doing.
Right.
So that got us a lot of exposure. So when it came time for the screening, you know, we was like, we got to find the biggest theater in town because we got a lot of people want to see this movie.
Right.
And we was like, well, Showcase Cinema is about the biggest thing around here. So we went out there and rented out, and they was kind of like, so which one of the theaters? You want the little director theater that probably sit 150? We like, no, we want the biggest size theater you got, you know, which set like 350, and we packed the place up.
Yeah, I was just told that it was something like 400 people.
Oh, it was Hollywood in Cincinnati. I mean, we did the limo, the red carpet. We had people filming and paparazzi type of vibe. It was nice.
Right, and I watched the clip. I watched the clip last night, and I saw the red carpet. It was great. It was fantastic.
Right.
I adored it. And what I really liked about that was that your son was involved, LaShawn, right?
Yeah, my son, he was involved at that time. He was working with me a lot. And Mazan was the one that covered the whole, you know, event. And she did like her Oprah Winfrey type vibe thing.
Right.
She did a great job with that, though, yeah.
And that was a great piece that you did also in Purple Haze. It was similar to the Warriors. Yeah,
see, a lot of people, I was, you know, when I did that was the whole concept. I wanted to see how many people would actually, you know, make that connection, because that was a big film back then. I was just trying to pay the homage to it, you know.
Well, you know, this is what we do, bro.
Right.
Yeah, so I saw that right away. I also saw when you were talking about the black and white thing, you know, this was a little something that I looked at, and I said, okay, well, that was a little Spike Lee-ish.
Yeah.
You know, so that was great.
Right.
But coming from your point of view and your concept, it was fabulous. I adored it.
Thank you.
Let's talk about you have a couple of horror. You know, I saw your shift, and I think we talked about your shift. And
how do you go from a hood stuff to
a
serial killer?
You went from the hood, some gangster,
right,
to some Stephen King.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Help me with that, bro.
Well, you know, I've always been a fan of horror movies, like you said, Stephen King, Halloween, Friday the 13th, all that kind of stuff, you know, so I've always been a fan of that. So actually how we came about with the Purple Haze, Anthony Russell, who lives in Detroit, well, he lives in Atlanta now.
Right.
He had met these actors, and he wanted to try them out for a future project. So he was like, let's do like some kind of little short rehearsal, some little audition type thing. So we did something. I said, you know what, they're pretty good. I said, we got to put them in a little short story or something so we can just have something to put out there. So he actually came up with the concept. It was him who came up with this idea of doing this Purple Haze thing. And the whole Purple Haze story came about when he went down to the Capitol's costume store to look for a mask. And the mask that he found was this purple mask. So we was like, we're going to call it a movie. Purple Haze. That makes sense.
Purple
So
Haze, yeah, that
we
was
did a short. It was like about 8 minutes or something like that.
Right.
And when we was doing one of the screenings of OTR at the Esquire, we wanted to see how the audience would react, and we put on a short of Purple Haze, and it was like jumping in their seats. So we knew we wanted to make it into a feature.
I did as well. I sat there at my kitchen table last night, and I just, I loved it. I loved the whole concept. And I love what you do with the camera. But before we go any further, let's just briefly talk about your family. You have a pretty nice sized family, that I'm told of.
Yeah, it's a lot of Zellars. A lot of them out in Lincoln Heights, Lockland. Family is important, I guess my creative genes passed along to my son and my daughter, which my father was very talented. He could the guy could sit and, looking like you and just sketch you out to look just how you look. He was really talented.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Pass that along.
Right.
Now, the purpose of this show is to keep it on the line. And one of the things that I found interesting in looking at some of your work, particularly basement,
the basement show.
The dark basement, right?
Yeah, basement
show. It's like, I'm listening to this brother, and you get at it, bruh, and I really can appreciate that. Some of the topics are, you get right at the topic. Can we talk about the concept of that particular piece?
Well, again, it was, being a fan of television, I've always liked Johnny Carson, David Letterman, stuff like that. So I decided I wanted to try something like that on my own. So I came up with this idea of doing a variety show. I kind of called it like Arsenio Hall meet Johnny Carson type thing, kind of made it kind of edgy, doing all these little skits. And we did that for quite a few years, and then different people moved off. You try to get different hosts. You have one host for a minute, then you get another host and all that kind of thing. And then I just got to where I figured out a way I could just keep that going without having to deal with, can I get a host this week? How many guests am I having? Who's going to be on camera and that kind of thing. So I came up with just doing this sort of video vlog, concept where it's still tied in with the basement show, and just so much stuff that's going on in the world and stuff that's going on in our community. That's right. I try to do it in a way where I tell a story, but I try to sometimes put a little humor to some stuff, because some stuff you almost want to soften it up a little bit,
Right.
So.
Well, some stuff is just not too humorous, particularly in 2017. We saw a lot of tragedy. We saw a lot of shootings. This recent shooting at Cameo.
Right.
What's some of your views on?
It's sad, man. It's like, I just actually loaded up one of the basement show clips that I did not a clip, but one of the shows that I did, and talking about the shooting that took place over there in Walnut Hills. With the guy who accidentally hit the kid, and it was just tragic that it had to go, the guy should not have died because of an accident, you know, and it's just sad that our youth has gotten to where we can't think things out, where we have to resolve everything, got to be either, I ain't no punk, you ain't gonna do this to me, I got a rep and got to go to the gun,
Right. And one of the things that I've been finding interesting is, and not to take it too political, but I'd be remiss if I don't keep it on the line, right? This is keeping it on the line.
Right.
So, when we talk about Black Lives Matter,
right.
Of course, every life matters, but I don't see Black Lives Matter until it's someone else taking a black life.
Right.
I don't know. How do you feel about
Well, it's like I had a discussion with somebody about that, and they was kind of saying that, when one of us kill each other out in the street or whatever, where's Black Lives Matter then? It's always the argument, Black Lives Matter always seem like they come out and it's a big protest when it's a police officer, a white police officer, shoot a black male or whatever. And, and the thing that I was trying to explain to them, the difference is why we have to, put the pressure on our law enforcement, because they're supposed to be there to protect us. When one of us shoot each other out in the street, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna find out who he was.
Right.
He's gonna get prosecuted, and he's going to jail.
That's right.
That's the big difference.
That's right.
Oftentimes, from Eric Gardner into all these other different shootings, a lot of times these officers do not go to jail. So you have to have an organization, and some of these different organizations like Black Lives Matter, to put this kind of pressure on law enforcement, our court system, to see to it that we get the justice. Because like I say, when Ray Ray shoot Pookie, they're going to find Ray Ray.
That's
and
right.
Ray Ray going to jail.
That's right.
He ain't
That's
getting
right.
out on bond.
Ray Ray don't shoot Pookie.
Right.
Hey, listen, Lee, how can our viewers find you?
If you just Google search me, type in Lee Zellars, Google search me, you'll find me.
Okay. What do you got going on here?
Right now, man, I got a project, a film project coming up. We're supposed to start going in production probably late June, July, called Grandpa.
Okay.
Really excited about that. Doing a reboot of my Tales from the Dark Basement.
Okay.
But those are the two. I'm trying not to spread myself out too thin, but the Grandpa project is wrote by Robert Jones. Really excited about that. I mean, It's a film that a lot of times when people do film, they can't pay actors, but we got a budget and all that kind of stuff, so that makes it nice when there's money involved.
Yeah, I know Robert, and I look forward to having him on the show pretty
definitely.
soon, as a matter of fact. Lee, I know that you're really passionate about our community, and I know this is something that you would like to involve our youth in, let them know that, you just don't have to only grow up playing basketball and football, that you can get into something, you can science, get into the arts, so we're going to go ahead and close out right now, Lee, but it's been listen, I could have did this for an hour.
Hey, me too, man. I could have sat here and talked to you all night.
I could have did it for an hour, man. It's been really amazing. Mazan had continually told me about Lee Zellars, so I'm glad to meet you. Grateful for being here. Listen, this has been On the Line with your host, Britton NewOne Carter. This is our third installment, and this is one that I've really been waiting for. All my guests are special, but I really look forward to having Mr. Lee Zellars come back and join us again. You can reach us at On the Line TV Show, and also on Twitter, #On the Line. This has been your host, Britton NewOne Carter, and this has been On the Line.